Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to a Final Fantasy Brave Extras video of the Ages. This one is going to be a long one, so if you go through the entire video, I appreciate you and you are a Chad or Chadette. So, this is going to be a video that will be trying to future-proof future questions saying, hey, I'm a new player, I pulled for this Neovision, is it good? Because some of you guys may not even know what a Neovision is. It's current as of this video. Look at the date when the video was posted, of course. Neovision is the highest rarity current in the game and the biggest pull that you can possibly get in the game. So you should be looking forward to getting Neovisions and things like that. And whenever you see a free weekly Neovision per week, of course, that means that you're guaranteed to get at least one of these units we'll be talking about here in this video. But we're not here to talk about how to pull a Neovision. We're here to talk about when you pull the Neovision and what happens when you do get that Neovision and how good it is, how old it is, you know, things like that. So let us get into it. First of all, statements. Some of them may be super brief, that I might not go over too perfectly. Some of them I will go a little bit too in depth in. But I'm going to be going in complete order from oldest to newest. Tsukiko will be excluded because I just reviewed her recently, so my information will not change too much on her. But everything else besides Tsukiko will be talked about other than limited time units that you currently can't pull. However, Ibara will be included in this because you'll be able to pull her pretty soon because Halloween is coming, so I'm actually going to include her in this video. But other than that, guys, let's get into it. So we've got Cloud, the first Neovision in the game, and despite what you may think, he wasn't very good. You're like, oh, I love Cloud. How can he be bad? Well, his TMR is absolutely awful. It's better now. It's better now because it's for him and for the Cloud will be coming out very soon. It gives him a lot of extra stats and things like that he needs. His STMR is still very good because it has 200% TDH. So usually units have 200% in their passives already. So with an additional 200%, you're at 400%, which is currently the max as of this video, which is good. So he has infinite turns. When he came out, his base form was okay, but it wasn't super amazing. 69, by the way, nice. He wasn't really that great. He was just okay. He could clear all the content in the game, but to be honest, most of the trials and things that came out as when this guy came out were 7-star trials and things like that. So he could stomp pretty much everything in the game because his mods were just much higher than the 7-star units. Not much higher, but pretty good. However, the travesty comes in when you cut to his Brave Shift form. And this is going to be hard to explain to a new player, but basically True Dual Wield and Dual Wield type units are just no longer good in the game because what TDH has over True Dual Wield and Dual Wield is that TDH has a mechanic called variance. So they'll be on average, they'll be hitting a lot harder and a lot more, not consistently, but just higher. They'll be doing higher damage output than a True Dual Wield unit. And what a True Dual Wield unit back in the day used to have over TDH was that they were able to equip more stats at the time. So if you had two weapons that had killers on them, that was in the 7-star era, that was very good for the meta. Nowadays, killers are a lot easier to equip, so it's not as great. I don't know. It's really hard to explain that. We're not really going to talk about mechanics in this video, but I just want to very briefly mention it. That's the reason why True Dual Wield is not so good, and that's why this Brave Shift form of this unit is not so good either. So overall, Cloud is always going to be a STMR fodder unit. When you pull him, you'll want his STMR 100% Master of Fate, but other than that, you're not going to really be using him anymore. Alright. We got Rain here, whose TMR and STMR are completely outdated and not useful whatsoever. Sorry. I'm gonna be brutal. I'm not gonna really apologize after this though. I'm gonna be brutally honest with every unit at this point, especially this guy is the second oldest Neovision in the game, and you can actually get him for free with some missions that are gonna be in the game. Some beginner missions and things like that. You can get him for free up to EX3. So you can get his crowns, but I wouldn't recommend them anymore. And what Master Crowns are, they are enhancements basically for Neovision units. But at this point, I wouldn't recommend using them on him because, well, he does have 55% fire amp, which is still one of the highest in the game for everybody. It's only 2 turns, but it is the highest in the game. Or at least one of the highest in the game. Still 55% is still pretty good, but I just wouldn't recommend it, guys. There'll be better. There's much better options to choose from. So if you pull this guy, I feel bad for you. If you pull for Cloud, I feel bad for you. Because these are the 2 oldest in the game and they're just not very useful anymore. I'm sorry. Anyways, moving on to Aerith. She actually just got buffed recently on JP, but it still doesn't matter. Because there's no way of fixing her at this point. They gave her some additional things, but it's just not good enough. So she was the first Neovision healer, but she was still in the era of the 7-star thinking where you need a healer on every team. Nowadays you don't really need healers because your tank or your support kind of does the healing role as well as doing other things as well. So she just isn't needed. Her team and STMR are mediocre. Her STMR is used every now and then because it has 50% magic TDH on it. So other than that, not very useful. Again, apologies if I'm not going super in depth. It's just that she's the 3rd oldest unit in the game in terms of the Neovision era. She's just not very good anymore. Healers are not good anymore. Unless your name is Kresnik. Unless your name is Kresnik. Alright, moving on to X-Star. Big bad X-Star, right? He's also got infinite turns. His STMR and TMR are very much mediocre at this point. They weren't even good on release. I mean, they both of them were not even good on release. So if they weren't good on release, they're probably not going to be very good nowadays. They would need a huge rework for that to happen. So he did get some changes in his Brave Shift form, and they are okay, but they're still not good enough. They didn't give him enough to hang with the big boys in terms of damage. I mean, even on release, he wasn't very good. So overall, if you pull for this, if you got this guy, I'm sorry, he is a dud. Moving on to Yoshikiri. This guy is a global unit, so this guy actually he appears on JP now too, but mostly known as a global unit, and he actually does have a exclusive ability that he got recently. So if you started playing since the anniversary, which was only a few months ago, not even that, like 2 months ago or something like that, you may have gotten this ability, and it's actually pretty good. It's only for 1 ally, but it is 200% human and machine killer, which is insane. And throwing weapon parallel is decent as well for all enemies. Usually these are only for one enemy, but the one thing that really holds this back is that it's only for 1 ally. But it is 200% killers. That's what you would use it for. But he also has some buffs from before. No one's really using him for. I wish that people would find room for him more, but there really isn't room for him. Because after you look at Frozen LCD and you look at New High Score and his ratio from the same thing, but you look at everything else, it's just not that great. I went to bat for him a few times. I think he's decent, but I think that you got the short end of the stick when it comes to these intrinsic abilities. Because unlike other units where they got passive upgrades, this guy, even with a passive upgrade, it wouldn't matter. He needed multiple changes, and he didn't get them. So if you got Yoshikiri, S-Teamer and S-Teamer are not very good either. So I'm sorry to say that. Yeah. Anyways, moving on to Starlight Elena, who actually, finally, we're going to be talking about someone who's actually viable for the current game state. If you have this hidden power ability here, that once again, if you play during the anniversary, you should have got this for free. And once again, they talked about giving out these at a later date through other means. And it looks like they're going to be doing through Master Crowns. So you probably want to start saving these Master Crowns, guys, for these abilities, because this is very powerful. This is the first, like I mentioned, this is the first unit we're going to be talking about here who's actually very good as of this video. Even though she's one of the oldest units in the game as of this video, she's very good now. She has a lot more stats, a lot more hunt modifier buffs, and things like that. So she's a lot stronger than without it. So she's actually one of the, if you pull for Starlight Elena, or not pulled. You know what I mean? Like if you pulled her, I wouldn't be so sad. This is finally a good unit, right? Finally a good unit in this Neovision pull so far, guys. So if you pulled her, congratulations, you got a meta unit. Alright, onwards to Gribrath. And he was okay on release, but nowadays you don't really need him for anything. He doesn't do anything that interesting compared to tanks of today. His STMR, however, is still good. His STMR does give a lot of stats, which hasn't really been recreated since. I mean, Wilhelm's STMR from the 5-star era, you can UOC those or 5-star select ticket that. But Wilhelm's STMR is still pretty good, but this guy's STMR is slightly better in the HP giving range. So this guy was supposed to get buffs, but they were skipped. As of this video, of course. Why were they skipped? I don't know. Because I made a big deal about it on the GB version, but it's not like they would be game-breaking. They weren't game-breaking buffs. So if you pulled Gribrath, I'm sorry. That's a dud. Furion. Someone who I went bad for when he came out, but everybody else pooped on him because his modifiers were very low, but they didn't recognize that he had, at the time, very good. He had the chain cap modifier, he had true dual wield, he had a lot of killers, so it was very easy to gear him back then. TDH at this point wasn't the biggest thing in the world. True dual wield still was okay, because remember, guys, this is only like 2 months into the Neovision era, maybe, give or take, maybe like two or so months. So TDH wasn't as big of a juggernaut as it is now. Basically, if you see a true dual wield unit in this day and age, just assume that they're not very good unless they get huge stats, like Roberta, we'll be talking about very soon, who is true dual wield, but gets insane stats, so she's able to make up for the lack of TDH. So sometimes those things can happen. Anyways, Furion is okay. He did get his buffs on the global version, surprisingly, and he is a lot better. So, with that being said, his STMR is very good for him, of course. His STMR is pretty good for everybody, but just mostly for him, because it does. If you look at the wiki, you might say, oh, it's not that great. But it did get upgraded, so it is an upgradable weapon. Anyways, Madame Medel, she was never good in a DPS role, but in a supportive role, yes. I've used the Madame's Encouragement quite a bit because it instantly fills your LB gauge to full. So very good. Also, the 300% attack and magic was very good as well. And she could have Earth and Dark Immune. So for DPS, she was a flop. People in the comment section may cope for her a little bit because of her Brave Shift form, but it was never good. You can cope all you'd like, but it was never very good. But these three bottom abilities were quite good, and I use them in in Dark Visions quite a lot. The Dark Visions events, I've used all 3 of those bottom 3 abilities very well. Not so much anymore. A little bit here and there, maybe for the Vivian Steiner team. We'll be talking about them very shortly. Very good for that, but other than that, at this point, we don't really need the Madame's Encouragement as much as we used to. We kind of need LB fill for everybody instead of just one person nowadays. Alright, and the one person I said I want to talk about is Ibara. Expect her to get some intrinsic ability. Expect it not to be free anymore, so it has to be good. Because if it's not good, then you shouldn't even bother with it. But she has a lot of problems that she's going to need help with, so she's not going to need only like one ability or a little modifier increase here and there. She's going to need a lot of help. Her Brave Shift form, of course, is the strongest form, but it needs a lot of help. She's true dual in her Brave Shift form, which is, of course, a big no-no at this point. We need TDH, so expect her to have a lot of facelifts. If they don't give her any facelifts, then I think she's just dead in the water forever. Because she has the potential of doing a lot of damage, as you can see here in Clash of Wills. But if she doesn't get the help she needs, she's just dead in the water. Because she's true to willed, she wants to be TDH now, and she doesn't have a lot of killers. And also, she doesn't have very many ways of filling her LB gauge at all. So she needs help with that. I believe me, I know I've tried using her several Clash of Wills and with that weak against Dark, and it just doesn't really work out that well. It's kind of hard to use her still. So with that being said, if you pull for Ibara and she doesn't have the intrinsic buffs, yikes. Alright, onto Soul. Big yikes. STMR, TMR bad. Just if you look at the dictionary, if you look up the word yikes, if there is one in the dictionary, if you look at the word yikes in the dictionary, this is what you'd see. This unit. That's all I gotta say. Alright, moving on. Shoreline, Fina, and Daisy. Still, you might disagree in the comment section. I'm shrugging my shoulders a little bit. You might disagree, but I think that they're still pretty good in the tanking role. They can tank pretty much all the trials in the Vortex. They might not match up with the current Clash of Wills tanks in Clash of Wills and things like that, but you'd be able to take them around pretty much all content that requires trials and six-man teams just fine. I promise you, if I made a series where I just brought them around to all the trials in the whole game, they would be able to tank just fine. They might not have the True Shield Wield, Spirit True Shield Wield, things like that other newer tanks have, but they still have a lot of good stats. So they missed out on buffing them this time around on the JP version. They did have a summer event and they did not get buffed, which makes me very sad. But maybe in the future they will get buffed. I don't know. So if you pulled them, they're still pretty decent. Especially if you're a new player and you have no tanks at all. Alright. Unionite. He has a very niche gimmick at the time, and it just wasn't very needed. He has accuracy debuffs and things like that, but they just weren't really needed at the time, and nowadays they're okay. But him as a unit is just completely outdated, has no imbues, and everything he does, just every other unit can do better than him. So yeah, he's just not very good, so sorry about that. Fistless, STMR is still pretty good. Has some Spear Killer for magic on it. Has 65 magic, which is not too bad. The TMR is not very good, though. TMR is not very good. And her damage is just subpar at this point, very outdated. I remember using her, like, when she got changed, I used her a little bit here and there, but nowadays, definitely outdated. You would only use her, and I was in this position, you would only use her if you had nothing else for the elements that she has. If you don't have anything else to use, you would use her. That's it. That's all I can say about Fizzless. Terra. Alright, so TMR and STMR are completely outdated. Her base form is completely outdated, other than summoning for if you use your crowns on these. You would be able to get a 40% effect for these effects, the fire, ice, and lightning, but only for magic. Oh, for physical and magical, sorry about that. Physical and magical. So that's the only reason you use her base form. Also, her base form LB does to a 25% LB increase, but at this point it's been heavily power crept by a unit we'll be talking about later in the video. So overall, just an outdated evoker. The only reason why you'd ever want to use her is that, like, again, if you had nothing else. But if you were a new player and you pulled one of her, I'm sorry, she's a dud. Alright, Lock. TMR is outdated. STMR never even got a chance to be indated. Well, I don't know what what's the opposite of outdated. You never even got a chance to get in the door. Like, this is the throwing weapon with decent attack, but it's one-handed, and it just had Bird Killer on it. Like, it's just not very good. It never found use at all. And he does have 90% defense break, but only when crowned. So if you don't crown this guy, he's not good. He does have Fire and Peril and stuff, though. I mean, that's something I use every now and then. But other than that crowning cooldown, he is completely obsolete. There are much better units in the game nowadays, so if you pull for Lock, that sucks. Last one, my boy. I gotta be harsh on him, though. I gotta be harsh on him. So nowadays, he's not very good. I like the build that he has, and I like the design that he has, but he's completely outdated at this point. So once again, if you pulled him, sorry. But there is a small light at the end of the tunnel. His STMR is at least good. It has killers on it. The stats on it aren't that amazing, but it does have insect killer on it. So at least there's that. Alright, so we're quite in the middle of the Neovision era at this point. We're at an anniversary stage, or at least on the debut version it was anniversary. So these are some actual anniversary units from a long time ago at this point, but still anniversary units. So Rain and Fina, their STR is still viable because it has LB damage on it. But other than that, you're not using this. You're using this for the LB damage only. And their damage is very low. I actually tried to use them because of the Beast Killer buff, but at this point, their damage is extremely low. They have their TDH, but they don't have the chain cap. So they're starting at 400%. Most units you're going to see nowadays start at 500%. These guys only have 400%, so you need an additional 200%, whereas units nowadays only need 100%. So that requires a lot more gear. Their damage modifiers on their LB are just not good anymore. 120%, 120 times is very low. Very low. So, once again, another dud. And last one, Reagan, the same. I'm just gonna say the same thing again, so I'm just gonna say it's a dud. The rest teamer is a dud at this point. It's a one-handed weapon, just not very good anymore. So this is also a dud. And another unit that is a complete dud. Their TMR and STMR are not very useful. However, I will say if they get buffed, they would have the potential of being decent because their LB, the Brave Shift LB, or not Brave Shift LB, their base LB is a 24 hit tag chain, which I've actually used on video every now and then for dark tag chaining. So they're actually one of the only sources of dark tag chaining in the entire game, but they need a lot of help. So hopefully they get it. We got Ashtar and Cleom. You guys know what I'm gonna say. This is kind of the same deal here. They're a dud. The STMR is outdated at this point, but at least it has some utility. It has LB damage on it, and also some human killer. So if you are a new player, a 270 attack katana two-handed is not too bad to have. So there's that. And finally, another unit that I might say is not completely bad because of one thing that she has at the very end here. Her Brave Shift LB has 90% Spirit Break, and that is her only claim to fame currently. Maybe she'll get buffed in the future and it'll be a lot better, but currently everything else here is not very good. Her STMR, however, is going to be viable for new players. Of course, you're not going to be doing Clash of Wills as a new player, so this STMR is very good for people because it gives you 100% chain cap. Remember we talked about, or some people need 200% like Rain and Fina, and some other people only need 100%. This will adequate you with the 100% right there. So that's at least something. Mazurka did get an intrinsic ability out of nowhere. I don't know why they chose her, but they did. And she's not good still. She's alright. She's alright, but still not stronger than Sky, who we'll be talking about shortly here. So STMR, TMR not very good anymore. Well, actually the TMR is actually not too bad because it has magical and plant killer on it. So I take that back a little bit. The STMR is not very good though, unless it gets upgraded, which it hasn't as of yet. I will say one small niche thing that she can do is that she does have a nullify spell ability. And she also has, if I remember correctly, she has Mirage. Maybe she doesn't. Oh, she has Mirage. So that's a small niche thing that she always will have. She's one of the only units that has Mirage and Nullify spell on the same kit. So that's something at least. Solidary Patron Snow is also not a bad unit if you pull with him, but you need to upgrade him. So that's a problem with new players. If you're a new player, you're probably not going to be interested in upgrading anything because you're trying to build a roster of characters first. His TMR is okay because it has 750 flat HP. And his STMR is just average. You're really not going to be using it on anyone but him, and maybe not even that. So Snow can only be good if you upgraded him and you know how to use him. That's how I'm gonna have to go about that. Ferris. I can't believe we're actually gonna talk about her. Her S-Teamer is not bad. It's okay. But she did recently get, I mean, she got crowns already, but she recently got a re-release of the crowns for free on the JP version. So those will be coming to global in the future. So if you care about Ferris, and she's not terrible, she did get a better field effect. Did she get, I don't know if she even got anything on global yet. Maybe she got skipped because nothing here has changed. Well, they can skip it when it comes to global because it's actually part of the event itself. There's going to be a dungeon with the event that'll give you silver crowns, which basically equate to upgrading her master crowns with these silver crowns. So there'll be free upgrades for Ferris. So I can't really say she's absolutely the worst thing you could ever have pulled, but pretty close right now. Speaking of one of the first things you could pull, Amelia. She needs a lot of help. That's all I can say. She needs a lot of help. I don't know what they were thinking when they made her, but as a new player, you probably should avoid pulling her. I'm kidding, of course you can't choose. But yeah, just kind of a yikes. Another kind of a yikes pull here. And Mello, he got upgrades on JP, but they were still not good. And I don't know if they're who even cares if they come to global. This guy, he never made waves, and pun intended, because he's a water mage. But skippable S-Teamer is okay. It has actually his Teamer is better. His Teamer has 50% LB damage on it, and also 50% magic. So it actually his Teamer outlasts his S-Teamer, which is funny. I use this Teamer every now and then, so we got Noctis here. Noctis, I mean, it's Noctis, right? You'd think that he'd be pretty good, but he was good for a time, and I don't think his global upgrades ever came, or the crown upgrades ever came for them. So he is another unit that's not very good, and his S-Teamer is not too bad though. His S-Teamer actually does see a lot of use, so I will say at least he has an S-Teamer that is very valuable. All right, King Behemi. His S-Teamer finds some use. That's 100% TDH for defense. Not too bad. But other than that, he's just an average physical tank with decent mitigation, but not amazing. So if you pull for if you got King Behemi, it's all right. He'll need another upgrade though at this point, because I don't really see anyone using him or even mentioning him when it comes to physical tanking. So he's gonna need a little help. Alright, that's going to be the end of that. I got a little bit much more pages for you guys. Let's get into that. Alright, we got Oracle Maiden Frey here. Basically the same thing as Terra. She's outdated. Evoker. Just doesn't have the stats to keep up with the current game state. She was game breaking when she came out, of course. She had a lot of things going for her. She was very strong, but nowadays she's showing her age. So once again, a dud. Same thing as Noctis. Other than his S-Teamer, they're almost identical in terms of what they want to do. So, once again, a dud. Zidane did get his buffs on JP. Don't know when they're going to come to global at this point, but when they do, he does, on his LB here, on his Brave Shift LB, he does have a build up to getting 160% Wind Imperil, which is another way, if you don't have Emperor, you would be able to get that going for you guys. So, at least he's got that going for him. That's the only reason why you'd ever want to use him. And his S-Teamer and Teamer. Oh, actually, his Teamer is very good still. It has 30% physical evasion on it. So, if you ever pull this guy, get his Teamer. Very easy to do nowadays. Get his Teamer. Not his S-Teamer, though. It's not very good anymore. Cacteria. Despite the break numbers that she has, 89%, for all those stats, she really isn't talked about much anymore. She doesn't really find a slot on the team anymore, so her Teamer is pretty good for new players because it does have magic percentage on it. So at least that's got going for her. Vivi, actually, I'm using it every now and then for Dark Visions because he is able to get huge amounts of chaining with Steiner. That's the reason why I want to talk about, because Steiner needs to use his LB because he'll reflect multiple times on your team. So what Vivi would do is he would triple cast or quad cast on his own team, and it gets reflected and it gets bounced back to the enemy, which means that he has a passive here. Increases reflected black magic damage 20%, allows it to self-chain, which means it's a tag chain, which is very good. That is what makes Vivi still really good nowadays. If you pulled Vivi, that wouldn't be too sad, but you need Steiner to work with him. Severity. There's one word to describe this unit, and that's cope. Moving on. Corral. I guess this is the same thing. Quote cope. This guy is actually kind of like a joke on my channel because I pulled so many of him. It's like a joke of the channel pretty much. He isn't very good. However, I will say if he ever gets a buff, he actually has a chance of being good, because actually his modifiers aren't bad. If you look at it from a non-biased point of view, I'm very biased for this unit, of course, because I pulled so many of him. But if you look at it, he actually has a chance of being good. He just needs more. Whatever that more may be, that's not up to me to decide. Alright, let's look at Napi, who apparently still doesn't have her intrinsic abilities. I thought she got them. Well, she's going to get intrinsic abilities at some point. So I can't really say whether, at this point, I think I'm going to skip Napi because I can't really say whether she's bad or good. I can say as of this video, without the intrinsic ability, she's absolutely terrible. The STMR is okay. The TMR is actually not too bad. I use it every now and then. But currently, as of this video, Napi without the intrinsic abilities is a dud. And Athma is a dud. TMR and STMR are completely outdated. Right? Yeah, they're not very valuable anymore. Sorry, let's move on. Luis, always kind of a staple in Dark Clash of Wolves teams every now and then. She has her moments. It really depends on what boss you're fighting for that Clash of Wolves. But she actually has a lot of things going about her. And she also has an intrinsic ability. It helps her out within the damage department, but she basically is still the same. So she's going to need some enhancements. Hopefully the fire starter will allow you to have it for more turns, for example. So, moving on. White Dragon Ling, she is very good. Finally, we're going to talk about a very good unit. Alright, so her STMR is still actually very valuable. And she has true Brave Shift, so she will shift between base form and Brave Shift form at will. She has a lot of things going for her. She's going to show her age a little bit because all the newer supports have the instant LB fill at the start of the turn if you have them EX2. This unit does not, sadly. But hopefully she'll be getting that because it allows her to do a lot of things a lot quicker. Because she requires LB fill, LB crystals for her to do a few things here, as you can see. But I think she's still very valuable. She's one of my favorite units of all time. She does so many things that's going to make your head spin. It's kind of hard to describe that in a very brief sentence. So she does a lot of things. Alright, moving on. Dud. Charlotte, dud. Complete. She was unreleased, she wasn't very good. So what makes you think she's going to be good now? Just one word, dud. Even with crowns. 120 times modifier for her LB, so what? Her modifier on her LB is still very low. So, yeah, dud. Can't say much on this guy right now, but as of, well, I guess I can say for Global. On Global, he's a dud. His STMR is terrible, it's one-handed, and never found any use. But on JP, he's actually, as of this video, that information hasn't come out yet, but he actually is getting a buff on JP. And he's getting free crowns, of course. So, he'll be getting a dark field of some kind, don't know the percentage on it, but he could be good. But currently on Global, he's a complete dud, and if you see him, you'll be very sad. Lord sees Nicole. Now, I don't know when his global buffs are coming, but he'll get a lot of changes if they come. He gets a lot of good buffs. A lot of nice buffs. Doesn't look like he's got them yet. Nope. So, whenever they come out, he'll get 100% water amp. I'm trying to be very vague about this because it's a lot of information for new players to digest. So, he'll be a lot better once he gets his buffs, but I don't know when they're going to come. Aerith still sees some uses today because of her base LB. which is still very hard to find other than another unit we'll be talking about very soon in this video. 400% stat buffs. She also has 405% light amp, also light imbue, and also 250% LB damage buff. So this is the reason why you'd still want to use her. But she still has some uses in her Brave Shift form because she has the tag chaining with some stat buffs and things like that. So still not too bad. You're not bringing her for damage. You're bringing her for the abilities that she has. Tifa, complete dud besides her STMR. She aged poorly compared to the next unit we'll be talking about here. Her STMR is still very valuable though. So if you want to get her STMR, it's still pretty good. And her TMR is not too bad either. I don't really want to get into it too much because it's very technical and mechanics standpoint. But her TMR is very valuable if you want to stack up on that and start understanding what that means. But this video is only talking about units in particular. I don't want to get too mechanical in this video, guys. And this guy aged very well, like wine, because on JP he got a giant buff. Now we don't know if they're going to come to Global, but they probably will because they are, once again, just like Ferris, he was a part of an event. They got the crowns. So it basically, like, has to happen. They can't really skip it. If they go out of their way of skipping it, that just shows the disdain for their players at that point. Currently on Global, he's just okay. I can't say he's terrible. He's just okay. He's very good for quick dark vision clears, but he's kind of showing his age a little bit on Global at this point, but it's still not too bad. So if you pull for him, not too bad. Okay, Sky. This is one of the best units in the game currently. Remember when we talked about jumpers and things? I think when I talked about Mazurka, Sky is much better as a jumper with her intrinsic ability, of course, because she double dips on her ability there. So, but that's not really what we're going to be talking about here, guys. I'm sorry I'm talking really fast because I got a lot of units to talk about, and we're already very deep in this video, guys. So, this is the reason why you bring her along. The modifier on this is absolutely ridiculous, even nowadays. This is the reason why you bring Sky along to Clash of Wills. She is your main finisher, bar none. There is almost no one who's stronger than her at max power. So this is the reason why you'd bring her along, especially with the intrinsic buffs that she got recently. So there's almost no one that's better than her. There's only like one person maybe that might be better than her, but it's kind of up in the air a little bit. Other than that, she's so powerful. So if you got her, very well done. Her STMR is very valuable. TMR, however, not that great, but her STMR is very good. I got multiples of them. Anyways, Celeste, TMR, not too bad. Aquatic Killer for physical and magical, so not too bad on that front. STMR is only good for her. And she has the nullification on it, so for some trials and things, so she actually has some use. And other than that, she doesn't do very much at this point. She still has one of the highest ice buffs in the game. I said one of, I didn't say the best, but one of the best ice buffs in the game. So in a Brave Shift form, she has that at least. So at least if you get her, at least it's decent. Digny, TMR and STMR are not very valuable anymore. And this guy was super hyped up, or I can't remember if it's this year or not. It doesn't matter. Anyways, this guy was super hyped up for a long time. Has huge modifiers, but just kind of fell out of favor because there's just so much other units that you could slot in instead. So that's kind of what happened to this unit. Anyways, moving on. Now this one's going to be kind of hard to describe because this guy was actually the first super super lone burst unit. This guy does not have a Brave Shift. So what happens is that he ticks down at certain turns, depending on what EX level you have, as long as he's EX1, and then he gets a stronger LB at the end, depending on what turn you have on that as LB there. And this guy's just not very good. He wasn't very good on release, and he's not good now. Even if he gets a crown buff, I don't think he'll be good still. So, moving on. Bulwark, I'm going to say this very briefly. Similar vein as Ling, where he does a lot of things, and you're bringing in Clash of Wills pretty much every single time, every now and then. There is one unit that kind of filled Ling's and his role and does it a little bit better, but they're still both Ling and Bulwark are very good. So if you got them, very nice. Kresnik, we mentioned him already. So he is very valuable for many things. He has a lot of healing capabilities. And remember I said healing isn't very good anymore. But he does it so well that it doesn't matter. He does so many things in Clash of Wills that it helps out a lot. So, yeah. And the main reason why you're bringing him along is because this arcane stimulant, it fills morale gauge a lot. So good for him. Ice Ripper Kursame, same thing as Cyan. SLB, outdated, kind of bad, so moving on. Sage's Kura, very similar to Nicole, almost a mirror, except for she's lightning instead of water, so when she gets buffed, she'll be very good. And her STMR is not too bad as well. Roka, another SLB, has a unique ability that is able to reduce the timer of cooldowns by a certain amount. But other than that, you're not bringing her for anything, so there's that. Pause. Okay, let's talk about Ploss. Her STMR is very good. She's basically the magic version of Cloud's STMR. So that's something at least. So if you pulled this, at least her STMR is very valuable. But the unit itself, just look at my face. That's all you need to know for that. Alright, moving on. Livera. Very, very powerful unit with their intrinsic abilities. And I would even like to say top tier. With the intrinsic ability, of course. Without it, and without the Dazzling Demoness card that is no longer obtainable, they aren't going to be as good, but they still will be serviceable. So if you pulled them, I wouldn't be too sad. You can build on them a little bit. Their STMR and TMR are really only good for them though. Well, actually the TMR is not too bad for other people, but the STMR is only good for them pretty much. Alright, that's going to do it for that part. Let's put in some more units. Alright, so we've got Kayn here. Kind of outdated at this point. Sky's much better if you want a jumper, but once again, not so great. This guy is not so good anymore. His stats are kind of low, even with his STMR and with his upgraded spear of the 5-star version of Kayn. His stats are still kind of low, but for a new player, he won't be very good. If you're a veteran player, you have everything already, so I don't really need to describe that for you. But this is mainly for new players. Once again, pretty much a dud. Yeah. Rydia. Dud. Sorry. A lot of these units, I can't, it's kind of hard to describe them, they're just duds. Finally, we're going to talk about one of, arguably top 5 best unit in the entire game. So if you pulled Stormseeker Esther in one of your random pulls that you do, you struck gold, madam or sir. TMR is average, but the STMR is very good for her and for other units. Vision Car is top tier now that I got upgraded. Remember, you gotta level it up one time. But this unit is the definition of top tier. You can tank in her Brave Shift form for physical damage. It requires a little workaround, but you can work on it. But her base form, just so powerful. Just everything that she can do. And she just has a lot of things she can do. Her LB is superb, and this is the reason why Terra's base LB is just not very good anymore, because this has 100% LB damage, whereas Terra's is only 25. That's a huge jump compared, and also her LB 370 times max with the chaining. So if you're chaining this with someone else, you're doing massive damage, and max morale, of course. Plus, she has a lot of other things. All right, moving on. Ninja Edge. Currently on Global, a complete dud. However, on JP, if he ever gets his buffs to come to Global, he'll be a lot better because he has 160% Lightning and Peril, among other things that he can do. So, currently on Global, complete dud. TMR and STMR are very, very invaluable. Have. I'm trying to take this thing seriously, but just even looking at this page is disgusting. This guy is probably the worst Neovision in the entire game. Doesn't do anything valuable at all. That's all you need to know. So if you pull this guy, you're very sad. Lefty, on the other hand, is decent at least. She has some fire imbues and things like that she can do. And when she gets her global changes, which have to happen, by the way. This is not one of those things where, oh, we're just going to skip it. This comes with the story. So she'll get a free equipment, free hat, I believe it is, that allows her to 100% fire amp for one ally. Now, Sylvie kind of spoiled that a little bit, which we'll be talking about shortly here. Sylvie kind of spoiled this, but she's still not too bad. Dark Rain, very powerful, but... Well, actually, this is pretty good to talk about. So, yes, TDH is the premier damage type. However, there are some occasions where True to Wield is better because the stats that you can get from those weapons that he has, because his STR can be stacked and he gets a lot of stats from those. This is one of two situations that are actually better as a True to Wield as of this video. Of course, I don't know if the whip build is better with Dark Venus STMR. But with two of his STMR, he does a lot of damage. Alright. Reagan. Dud, pretty much. His STMR is kind of valuable at least, but... Anyways, Roberta and Igneous. Very good unit, still used today. Top tier unit. I would say top 5, easily. Easily top 5 unit. She can do a lot of things, jumping. She can chain. She can chain with herself with the Mystic Breath. And technically you kind of can chain this with Extreme Overframes if you line it up correctly, which I've done many times. She does so many things that's just hard to describe. So many things. So she is a plus. If you get her, you are in Cloud 9. Next other turn, he's already been power crept on JP. There's already someone who can do 145% Dark Imperil on the regular LB, which was Gilgamesh, that just came out recently. Or 140, I can't remember if it's 145 or 140, it doesn't really matter too much. But he can do, on his regular LB, oh here it is, 145. He can do, Gilgamesh, the newest unit, one of the newer units on JP can do what he can do on his SLB, on his regular LB, so that's a yikes. So he's been completely power crept and not very useful at this point. But his STMR is very valuable for Starlet Elena because his STMR gives 200% TDH for breakers, and she has a breaker stat an ability. So she's considered a breaker unit, so she's able to equip this. So is able to build a little better. Feed the Return, meh. If you have Aerith, she's pretty useful. She kind of is trying to do what Aerith can do, but Aerith can kind of do it better, so I don't really know how to, like, she's just not very good. But her STMR is very valuable. It has 180 magic on it with some killers, so that's something at least. Nickel the Return, a complete dud. His mechanic just doesn't work, but his STMR is very valuable because it's two-handed and it's a rod. So very valuable for that. Got Sakura the Return, also another dud. Both of these are complete duds. There's not really much to say about them. They're just duds. Maeve, very valuable physical and magical cover tank. If you played in the 7th era and quit during that time, there was a unit called Bosch, who could do physical and magical covers, and she can do pretty much the same thing very effectively. Because when you shift into one of her other forms, the cover is removed and replaced with the cover of the choice of the shift form. So for example, if I was in the base form and I shifted to the brave shift form, her physical cover would be removed on the next turn. However, usually you're just going to remove it anyways, but it's still nice. She does a lot of good things. She has LB fill and things I rely on a lot, actually, in Clash of Wills. So she's actually very valuable, very valuable. Alright, Someone Yuna, she actually, with her changes, her Master Crown changes that, and if you recently started playing, you got one of her for free. So with her changes, she actually can be hitting pretty hard now. Her STMR is very valuable, so pretty good. Riku, she's been a joke on my channel for a very long time because she's one of my favorite characters in all of Final Fantasy, and she came out being a complete terrible unit so badly that on release on JP, I completely refused to even review her. I skipped reviewing her completely on the JP version because she was just that bad. A lot of her abilities are from her 5-star form, or even are from her 4-star form, and they didn't bother changing a lot of things. But with her changes, she's a whole lot better now, because look at that juicy HP barrier. It's gigantic, and the heal split over 2 turns is also really insane. So that HP barrier is super juicy. Actually, is this? I think this is current. No, it's not. It's not current. So I don't know if she got them yet. They advertised that she'd be getting them, so I don't think the wiki was changed, because this actually HP barrier is actually a lot bigger than this even, which is surprising. I know, right? So this is actually not right. So actually, why don't we go to the JP page very quickly, guys? I know, oh, it's JP, but it'll actually show the changes. 50k HP barrier there, guys. That's what she's going to be getting. That's why she's so insane. Unconditional HP barrier. Unlike Maeve or other units that require morale gauge, she doesn't need any of that. She just uses it. So, very valuable. Even on that regular LB, 30k. That's insane. That is a huge amount. So, very nice on that. Very valuable unit now, if you upgrade her. If you don't upgrade her, she doesn't exist. Oron, his SMR is good for the new Tidus. But other than that, he got his upgrades. They actually are showing. Just not very good. Even with his upgrades, just not very good. He's serviceable, but there's other units that are just much better. Dud. Complete dud. There's no way of fixing her other than getting her STMR to be craftable to be two-handed, and for her to be a TDH unit, and for her to have much higher modifiers. There's almost no way of fixing her otherwise, because she's a true dual unit and a TDH meta. So I don't know why they did that, but they did. Freesia, not very good on global at this point, because she's a win support, but I think that we have better than what she has, I believe. Oh yeah, Chris, the Banya, I can't believe I can't forget already, but we already talked about they have much better win support than this unit. Sorry about that, guys. I've talked about so many units right now with my head spinning. One new thing I can know about this unit is that their STMR is very valuable because it has charm immunity on it. So that is one thing you guys want to be looking for this unit, charm immunity. That's it. Tyvus, one of JP's most favorable units because they keep buffing him over and over again. So actually his modifiers are absolutely insane at full power. But that requires you to invest a lot into him. But if you do, with the changes on Runda and his hat that you can equip on him, Tyvus becomes an absolute monster of a unit. So if you pull a lot of him in the future, he is very valuable. Tullian, however, is a complete joke until, like we talked about with, who is it, Leftia? His story upgrade also has to come eventually. He gets 160% Earth Imperil, among some other breaks. So actually he'll be very useful in the future, but as of currently it's a joke. Alright. Dorgan didn't get any buffs on the JB version, even though they just recently did a Final Fantasy V event. He was skipped. Lena was buffed instead, which we'll be talking about very shortly, so currently he's a dud. Lena, however, did get some buffs on the JP version, and she's a lot better now. She's basically a budget version of Emperor, who we'll be talking about in the future here. But she's very good now. TMR and STMR are not very valuable at this point, but it's okay. It's alright. Anyways, moving on. Now we've got Frostblade Freya here, who on release wasn't very good because everybody looked at her damage, but she actually has a lot of utility. At this point, it kind of depends on what Clash Wolves fight you're fighting. So if you're fighting someone that's ice, you're gonna have a lot better time because she has some things that you can work with that. But other than that, she's just okay. So if you got her, she's alright. I would say like top 20 units in the game for her. That's a ground shell. He was basically a superstar, like a rock star on JP. When it came to global, he's basically a vision card bait, which you need EX3 for. So his STMR is okay. TMR not very good. He's a decently hard hitter, but for a new player, you're not going to find use for him at all. So if you pull for this guy, he's currently a dud for you, but maybe in the future he might be more better for you. More better. That sucks. I didn't mean to say it like that. Anyways, Renoa here, who actually can find some uses on your team for her base LB, which is a tag chain. I've used every now and then. And for her Brave Shift finisher maneuver of doing the Meteor Dark Angel Wing, I believe, is it right? No, it's the Apocalypse. Sorry about that. You're using this Apocalypse here, which gets upgraded. It's a lot stronger. So what you normally do is use your Brave Shift LB and then able to do the Apocalypse damage because it's getting a huge modifier. So if you're able to multicast this in succession 4 times, you're going to do a lot of damage. But other than that, she's not very valuable. She does have a dark field though. She does have a dark field. So that's something at least. Alright, Laguna. At least he has some utility. He's a water breaker. He has water imperil, he has brakes, water imperil, and also gun imperil. So he's got that going for him. But other than that, dud. Garrison Ward, tag chainer, otherwise dud. Fledgling Lawyer actually has a very good STMR. I've used this on very many occasions at this point. 100% HP. On top of 80% HP, 800 HP, sorry about that. 800 HP. My voice is starting to die a little bit, so I'm trying to get through this video here, guys. So it's already very long. It's probably one of my longest videos of all time. But if you're still sticking with it, make sure to leave a like on the video. This guy is very tanky. He can reach up to insane levels of stats, but we'll talk about someone very shortly that can be much higher than him. But he's not premium. Whereas the unit we're talking about is premium. So Marlith is only useful for Vivi, which we've already talked about, so she buffs up Vivi quite a lot, but other than that, there's no reason to ever use her. Tidebring and Kaito, probably another top 5 unit in the whole game, so if you pull for this guy, I keep saying that, if you pulled this guy, he's very good. Very, 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 very good. He has top tier brakes, he has so many mechanics that he can use, there's just so many things that you can do, water imbue, killers. If you need it from him, he's got it pretty much. He's the jack of all trades and master of them as well. So a very valuable unit. He has a unique mechanic of decreasing the buffs that the boss has and also increasing the status effects that the boss is affected by. So that's also very unique that has not been replicated yet. Plus you can chain with Esther. Alright. Emperor. He's very valuable for the 160% wind imperil. But other than that, he's not very useful. Alright, moving on. Rickard is an STMR fodder. Just STMR fodder. And also future TMR fodder for any kind of Final Fantasy II units that may be meta. Because he has Fire Flat Attack for FF2 units. And also 50% killers for all killers. So, ish. Not very good on global. On JP she's okay, but on global she's not very good. She's an icebreaker with some spear and pearl, but not very good. Paul never had a chance to shine because on global we have much better. On JP we didn't have as good stuff, so yeah. On Latal, once again, on global we have better in terms of the ice support, but for killers we have 250% killers, which are also pretty good. It's only for one ally, but you'd only put this on your finisher anyways, so it's not too bad. Wilk is in a weird spot. He's a premium unit, but there's just better units now than him, and he's not even that old. We're getting to the point where we're actually near we're near the far end of what we're talking about here in terms of new units. This guy came out during the anniversary, and already is kind of showing his age. His vision card is very good. His vision card is very, very good, but he's starting to show on less and less teams because he just takes so long to get going. And what I mean by that is very quickly, he's got to go around a lot of hoops to make it show he can do his 90% defense breaks and things of that nature. So he's a bit of a wind-up unit, and easily top 5 unit. This unit does so much that it's just hard to describe in a very brief sentence. She does everything and a bag of chips. Whatever that means. She does so many things that she's on your team almost permanently. She's like glued to your team slots. That's the best way to explain it. She does so many things. Rain, S-teamer fodder. Just not very valuable. Mediocre DPS is what I can say. But his S-teamer is very good for tanks, or not for tanks, but just for tanking up. I mean, tank up. If everybody's gonna be getting hit, this S-teamer is very good. Look at that HP values. Look at these HP values, guys. Come on. All right, and this is the unit we were talking about here with the S-teamer, the Whip S-teamer for Dark Rain. Now on JP, this was top tier. On Global, I don't know, because Dark Rain's S-teamer got buffed, so it gave him more stats, and they stacked. So I don't think anyone really cares at this point, but her S-teamer is very valuable, and her teamer is very valuable. Has a lot of good HP on it. Only support units can equip it, but it's pretty good. So she's decent as a dark support because there really isn't many dark supports in the game. So there's that at least. She has a 400% stat buff too, which is pretty good. And also 300% LB damage buff on the SLB there. Last of all, the Final Fantasy IV version, S-teamer fodder. Literally S-teamer fodder for 100% LB damage for magic units. Poppy, a decently strong magic finisher for wind. Against plant, she is very powerful. Against everything else, she's just very average. Leftia, ironically, she wasn't very valuable in the JP version, but in the global version, she was actually used quite a bit because of some things that she could do with the earth magic, because there wasn't very many earth mages in the game, so she was useful for that. Samurai Chizuru, once again, top 5 unit, easily top 5 unit in the game. I may have actually said more than 5 units in the top 5, but you guys know what I mean when I say that. She's just very valuable. S-teamer is very good. Teamer is okay. Vision guard, her vision card combines with her TMR to get 50% all killers, so that's also not too bad. She does so many things it's hard to describe in one little sentence. She's top tier DPS, and also has 100% win amp for herself. So there's that. Very valuable. Alright, and we're getting near the end, guys. If you stuck to the very end here, appreciate you. Alright, we're almost all caught up, guys. We're almost at the end. Roos, he's okay, but there's already someone who's much stronger than him and easier to use. So this guy has some problems. He does not have infinite turns. He's a strong LB finisher, but there's just better than him at this point. So let's move on. Nelika, complete fodder, and that makes me sad because when season 4 was shown, the teasers and all the characters were shown, this was my favorite character that I pointed out when I was reacting to the trailer and everything. This was the unit I picked out that I was my favorite, and she's actually probably one of the worst current modern Neo Visions in the game, sadly. Fleetfoot Sky Pirate Balthier, which is funny because even though he's a JP ported unit, he's actually among one of the strongest units in the entire game currently, but only with Fran. So if you did not get him during his event, and you didn't play the event to get Fran, he is dead in the water. And there's currently no way in Global to get Fran besides that event. There is a point. I don't know if Global is going to do it, but there was a way to get Fran again recently on the JP version. I don't know if the Global side's going to do it though, so we'll have to see. But his modifiers are insanely powerful. Even by global standards, he is considered one of the strongest units in the game, but only with Fran, because Fran helps buff him up a lot. I'm really losing my voice, guys. I'm trying to get through this. Osh, very powerful support and magic cover tank, but for global standards, actually she might be one of the best magic tanks that are not premium or limited time. So I can't say, oh, Chow is better, because Chow can't be pulled at any time from an EX ticket or anything like that. Unlike Ash, where she can be obtained through a random EX ticket or just random pull. So she's actually very valuable for just as a magic tank. I use her on JP a lot now. So very good for that. And in the same vein as the last Wolf Final Fantasy IV version, this guy is complete fodder at this point. Even though he's a modern Neovision unit, I don't know what they were thinking. But his STMR is very valuable for physical TPS because it's 100% LB damage. Vaughn, very good fire breaker, 160% fire in peril. So if you pull for him, also, unlike other 160% fire or 160% in breaker units that we've talked about, this guy has 160% fire peril on a cooldown. Now the cooldown is very long, but it is 160% fire peril to hold you over till the SLB. He does have Mirage, he does have amps for himself, and things like that, so he has some things going for him. So he's not too bad. And his STMR is not too bad either. It has physical evasion. STMR is also not too bad. It has, I believe, TDH. Only for breaker units though, sadly. But not too bad. Now we're getting to the really modern units. This one's not even that old. Beach Blaster Olive. I reviewed her recently, so if you want to know more about Beach Blaster Olive and if you pulled for her but you don't know anything about her, go watch my review on her because it's still up to date. But there is one asterisk that I will be adding now that I know more about her and that I've used her quite a bit. There is a complication with her. If you got her to EX3, and this is the problem with SLB units. Now her LB is a finisher ability, but her SLB is actually a chaining. So if you wanted to bring her only for finishing, and you get to turn 3 and she's EX3, now you're stuck. Because she's no longer able to finish, and if you didn't bring anyone to chain Extreme Nova frames with, now you're stuck with a mediocre SLB. They won't be doing as much as the LB would, if that makes sense. So that's her biggest flaw, and it sucks that she's an SLB because she's very powerful. Even outside of Clash Royale, she's very powerful. Alright, we got Ace Striker Tidus here, or New Guardian Tidus. His STMR would have been very valuable on all units, but on Global, they decided to make it so you can't use Morale LBs with his STMR, who gives a huge modifier buff to. It's 100 times modifier, but it's not usable with Morale LBs. So everything that's not Morale based. For example, Chizuru, one of her LBs is Morale, one of them is not. So the one that's not will be getting buffed by this, which is okay. Overall, he's a very strong water finisher, but he's premium. His vision card is very good. Has the chain cap on it, so it's pretty good. On Global, we won't care much about it, but as a new player, you're not going to be seeing him have vision card anytime soon because you need EX3 to get it. Lulu is going to be in the same vein as every other 160% in peril breakers. On Global, she's not as good, but on JP, she's a godsend because we don't have as great of breakers on Global as we do on JP. So she does have 160% killers for human. She's decent, but she's delayed. Her LB is actually delayed. And it says 27 hits, but it's delayed, so it's annoying. So that's unfortunate. And finally, we got to the very end. Once again, I talked about, I'm not including Tsukiko, just go watch my Tsukiko review. It's up to date. I'm going to say the same thing as I said right now. So Jet did get buffed on the Global version. He's a lot better now. But he is premium. But he is insanely tanky. On the Builder website, FFBE Builder website, I was able to get 10,000 HP on him. That's at max power, of course, but that's insane. That is really crazy. So this guy is very tanky. If you get him, even at EX0, he's fine because you can still tank with him just fine. You don't actually need to use his LB at all. It is good, but you don't need to use it. He's still very tanky even without it. So that's going to be the end of the video, guys. This might be my longest video of all time, excluding streams. So hope you guys appreciated this. I apologize if I went way too fast or talked way too much, talked way too fast, and I didn't mention things more in detail. But if I did, this would be a 2-hour video instead of a 1-hour video. So I hope you guys appreciated this video. I thought of this idea off the top of my head today because I've seen a lot of questions lately. I pulled this. I'm a new player. I pulled this. Is this good? Hopefully this video will be able to last you guys for a long time. If you watch all the way to the end, type hashtag happy face. I don't know. That's all I could think of. Hashtag happy face in the comment section down below if you watch all the way to the very end. And if you did, I will definitely be favoriting your comments. Thank you guys very much for watching. Appreciate you. And I hope to see you in the next video. Peace.